Muffin!
Muffin!
It's been so long.
Been so long. Welcome to Getting Juicy.
Getting juicy with Rachel and Hiiro.
This is my morning dance. I seriously think I was going bananas yesterday after staring at my screen and doing performance reports for a marketing company for the whole day. I was like,
Oh my god, I was the same way, just looking at my phone and responding to emails and text messages and just be like, Kate, can I just be left alone? But I can't be left alone.
yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
It's all about just kind of getting into a different routine. And that's actually why you haven't really seen Hero and I for a while, just the two of us at least. We both have been, getting back on, gosh, I'm drinking too much coffee. I don't know what's going on this morning.
Your Jews have been hustling.
Yes, this is true. Yes, this is true. So you look, I mean, I know you just woke up, but you look, I love, your hair is so fluffy. It's all
My hair is fluffy, really. I love that. It's got some texture to it. It's got like the typical Jewish kind of waviness to it. That's probably why.
right.
Well, you got some curl though. But, you probably, you're older. You've probably been up since what, like 5?
Excuse me? We're starting with this already? Are you serious?
I thought it would be good to start off with a little bit of banter, given what we want to talk about.
I do agree with that. It's not like I go to the seniors, early bird special dinner.
At the JCC in Vernon, if there even is one.
No, and I never frequented that in my, ever really, which is why I'm so ishy. But anyway, yeah. How are you?
Well, as usual, I just woke up out of bed and brushed my teeth for you and everyone else that's going to be watching and listening. So that's great.
I didn't even do that. You're not.
Oh.
You don't have to tell people that because they can't. I'm drinking coffee, so I don't really want to brush my teeth before coffee. But
yeah, no, that's true. That's definitely a big no-no.
Yeah, exactly. Not a no-no, as in grandpa, but it's. Do you know what no-no in Italian is? Grandpa.
Right. No.
No.
That's right.
No.
That's right.
Marrying an Italian. Yeah.
That's right.
It's your luck. But you know what? Actually, that segue didn't really mean to make that segue necessarily, but we'll hop right in here to our conversation. Maybe like a bit of a rapid fire convo about it's interesting. Like, Hero, I'll ask you this question. Like, I didn't really necessarily want, I don't know, like what you intend the podcast to eventually turn out to be, really is getting to the bottom of people, to what makes them tick beyond and behind what they kind of portray themselves to be out there in social media and whatnot. And the same goes for us and mental health and all those things. But you can't help but be obviously carried away or caught up in what happens on a day-to-day basis. So I never really want our podcast to be something controversial necessarily. That's not the intention. It's not the intention to like talk about something and get it to become popular because of a controversial topic. That's not my intention. But with that being said, there's a lot of controversy going on right now. And there's a lot of conflicting and segregated and separated views. And just going to say right now with the vaccine passport that's happening in British Columbia. So I know it's something that they rolled out. I believe one of the first places that did it perhaps was New York City, which I don't even know how that's going or if it started. I'm not quite sure. But basically what's happened here in Canada is a couple of the provinces have decided they want to roll out a vaccine passport, and British Columbia is one of them. And that is starting in like a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, a couple weeks. I think September 13th. Right.
Yeah. So if you're at all involved in social media whatsoever, it's just been a crazy free-for-all of, and understandably so, of angry people on both sides. And what really is grinding my gears is the unfounded or maybe I don't know, unfound is the right word, the comparisons that are being drawn between certain things. And a lot of these, have you seen like a lot of these memes and just people are just going crazy with comparisons?
Yeah.
I think it's probably just because it's such an unprecedented thing that you have nothing else in your life to really chalk it up against. So
Yeah.
I understand why people are scared and they don't really know how to handle it because it's something that they've never had to deal with in their life. So what do? You can only really try to relate somehow to something else, I guess, has nothing to do with you or what you've gone through in your life. So what's been happening lately, which Hiiro and I were going to talk about today, is the comparison that people are making, a certain group of people perhaps that are making about the Holocaust in comparison to the vaccine passport. So, and I wasn't really going to say, like I said, I'm not somebody who likes to stir the pot or get the conversation going, because I can be quite scared when it comes to conflict, but I had to say something. And so what I had said not that long ago, and I actually pulled it up. And I don't know, Hiiro, do you want to jump in here? I just was talking for quite a while about that, but.
Well, I can relate it definitely to the yoga industry, because that is an industry that I am definitely part of, and I'm continuing to be a part of as a teacher, as a provider of services, and also as someone in the social construct of social media. And I mean, honestly, I'm staying away from all that. I'm not someone that needs to voice how I feel in terms of that. What I've been doing is commenting on the studios or the businesses that are standing by the vaccination protocols and that are taking a stance from it, and just commenting and saying that, and just thanking them for understanding the risks that it puts people at as a community, especially as a teacher, or students that are choosing to be active indoors. Because even if people might have different views on science and have different views on human rights charters and all these things, which I, again, don't really want to get into on my personal account, I believe in science, and I believe in the fact that if we have our vaccinations inside of us, and I'm not someone that enjoys or wants to be vaccinated at every time, but this is something that is really unprecedented, and I know lots of people who normally wouldn't get vaccinated that have gotten vaccinated for the sake of the community, and that are willing to put their past experiences aside and realize that we have to do this. And of course they don't have to, but I didn't think twice. I've been double vaxxed for several months now, and I'm still making sure that I'm taking all precautions necessary. I think the idea of having a vaccine passport, though I understand why people might be on the fence about it and comparing it to certain things that are really inaccurate and unjustified, or people saying that my rights are being taken away, or there's this division of social class and stuff. And who am I to judge those people for having those opinions? Because I wouldn't want them judging me for having mine. What I can say is that as far as my community and the industry that I'm wishing to be part of as a full-time teacher in the near future, it's important to know that if I'm going to be offering my services in certain spaces, that they are doing what they can on their part to keep the people that are offering those services in those businesses to create revenue and sustainability for the businesses to stay operable, that we're doing our part. And I think a passport structure is really brings a lot of peace to my mind. I don't feel any stress. I don't feel any discrimination or taking away of my rights or anything like that.
Yeah, no, this is such a crazy topic. Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I know you were in an industry where, you definitely will be affected by that decision. And I'm not, because I work from home. So although with that being said, that's not true, because I do like to go to restaurants, and those are all the other things that are happening too. But I guess and I understand what you're saying, you are focusing more on the immediate effect that's happening to you in your life and what you're, and yeah. And I totally get that. I think what really got to me was the fact that, I'm going to go back to the Holocaust comparison, because I guess I just felt like I need to be a voice for a community. And for those, of course, it's really near and dear to me because of both of our grandparents being Holocaust survivors, but just to bring a voice to something of people who might not be able to voice that anymore because they're not around anymore. And it's just, it to me, it was just like the most disrespectful, hurtful thing I've heard. So, you know, basically I posted something on my social media that I just, like I said, I couldn't keep silent anymore. And I just basically was talking about, you know, until, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but until I just said, basically, until you have a Zaidi, a Jewish grandfather, or a Bubi, a Jewish grandmother, who have, you know, basically been hunted literally by people since they were practically born, put a freaking, you know, whatever you want to call it, X over their heads or a cloud over their heads, and exterminated, and their family being exterminated and hunted for how you came into this world, then I'm sorry, there is no comparison at all. And it was just, for me, again, it was just, I just felt like there needed to be, something just needed to be said. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't normally, like I said, I don't normally speak up, but I just felt like, it's like I said, with it being so near and dear to both of us, it's, but what ended up happening was, and it's interesting because in my post, I've said the words vaccine passport. I did not talk about whether you were anti-vax, pro-vax, whether you're vaccinated, whether you're not, anything like that. But of course, the conversation just went into like a massive tornado of people literally name calling each other. I wasn't even part of the conversation anymore. Mm-hmm. I had people swearing at each other back and forth on my feed, you know, just stirring up all kind of crazy about, people are just so on edge. And basically all it ended up being was a huge conversation about anti-vax and vaccine. And I was like, you know what, guys, this is not, that wasn't the point of the conversation. It was more just like, can we have respect for certain things that maybe happened in our past that we can't draw comparisons to?
Yeah, exactly.
Smarter. It's not about whether you're vaccinated or whether you're not. It was just, let's just bring some respect to the community. One thing I do want to say is just, sometimes I'm not very good at putting things into words, especially when I feel so passionate about it, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. I get very, I guess, flustered because I'm very emotional about it. But there's one quote I just want to read. So what happened in Canada was Quebec was the first province to actually introduce vaccine passports. And they're the first ones, I guess, that announced it. I don't know if they've actually put it into play yet. I'm not sure. But what happened is not only are people drawing comparisons, you know, verbally, there was a protest in Montreal where people were actually wearing yellow stars on their chests. Anti-vaccine passport. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, and so I'm actually looking at it right now. And so one of them says, because it's French, sans vaccin or vaccine.
Yeah.
No vaccine on the yellow star, like massive stars. And so something that one of the Jewish communities there, the quote was, "The appropriation of yellow stars by anti-vax protesters trivializes the Holocaust and the lessons learned. The yellow star was a symbol of the repression of the fundamental rights of Jews in the context of a genocidal project to exterminate the Jewish people."
Yeah.
I'll be shocked. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Again, I understand the anger that some people, like, you know, one person in particular that was commenting on my thread, whom has had people lost in their lives over the past year and a half or 2 years, not due to COVID, but to the fact that they could not, or the family could not visit them in the hospital while they were dying because of restrictions, COVID hospital restrictions. So there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of reasons for people to jump to certain conclusions and to get super extreme, but we have to be careful.
Yeah.
My goodness. Like, I mean, I know people are just talking about how the vaccine passports are a slippery slope, but our words are a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So sit with that for a sec, people.
Well, I think what's really important, Rachel, is the fact that you are able to bring awareness in certain ways that I don't, especially with those types of political conversations in terms of how our communities are being highlighted in certain ways that are not, I would say, justified. And definitely there are, again, bringing it back to, I guess, more of a spiritual or a wellness or a holistic community. It's kind of, I guess I've been kind of ignorant in realizing that there's a lot of people in those fields who are not, they look at their bodies in a way of being pure. It's one word that I see, pure or divine, that, putting poison in their body is something that they do not align with, things like that. And again, no judgment or criticism or even passive aggression on my part, but I didn't even think of it like that. I just very, in some ways I'm very naive, in some ways I'm not, but this is definitely a naive part of me where I was just like, well, the vaccinations are there for a reason. And the numbers of our society in terms of who has been diagnosed with COVID or who has contracted COVID, I guess, and who has passed from the disease, and the effect it has on our medical system. No matter how careful and safe you might be, and how justified you might be in your ideas about not choosing to protect yourself from others or protecting yourself from others not getting something because you are not vaccinated, those are choices that will have consequences for the duration of this pandemic, and seeing the percentage of people that have chosen to not be vaccinated, even still in different provinces, particularly their second dosage. Yeah, it's interesting. So I do hope that all the other provinces do roll out this protocol. And if it's short term, then that's fine, but at least it's protecting us in certain industries that are, or lifestyles even, that are definitely at risk of continued deficiency of making a living.
And I wouldn't call you naive. Like you preface that with calling yourself naive with what you just said. That's not being naive. I think that you took a step back from what you have been learning through yoga. Although we practice with yoga, not harming.
Yeah.
Harm. So I was just going to put it out there and say that maybe not harming means getting the vaccine and not harming those around you and your community around you. So anyway, there's lots of different ways I think you can actually think. Another yogi actually put it that way. I don't know who it was, but somebody that I know who is pro-vaccine. But anyway, this conversation, I didn't want this to be like a pro versus anti-vaccine.
No, not at all.
Really the point. But what I was going to say about back to the topic of, it's just, I just can't believe we've lost our sense of respect and humanity for each other and for being kind. And something else. I don't know if have you ever heard of nonviolent communication?
Yep, for sure.
Imagine if everybody was exercising that right now.
Oh, for sure. It would make all the difference. All the difference.
There's so much blame. There's so many yous going on. Not I feel. There's so many, name calling. It's horrible. It's horrible. Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean about words or a slippery slope. Like you can't take back things you say.
No.
It's very difficult, at least.
Yeah, it's true.
And
it's true.
Like I said, I couldn't believe, I will toot my own horn, I guess, like just sitting back and watching the comments that were coming through for my post. And there was a part of me years ago where I would have been explosive and felt the need to like defend myself and felt the need to defend what I was saying. but I couldn't even do that because some of the comments, they ended up derailing completely so much from the topic or so much from, and again, just the explosive name calling and those kinds of things. I didn't want to be a part of it. So I kind of just sat back, and I can't be responsible for other people's words. So I just sat back, was kind of reading it. Of course it got to me. But it's one of those things. Someone actually said, I think it was Viktor Frankl, who's the book Man's Search for Meaning, actually a Jewish Holocaust survivor. He was talking about his experiences in the Holocaust, and he also was a psychologist. And he put this very, very well, I think, about finding the space between action and reaction.
Yeah.
I don't know the actual quote, but he was very much on, you've got to find that space between action and reaction. And in that space is where, all the magic happens. I just threw that in there.
Yeah, but a lot of the time we act out of reaction on past experiences and what we've learned as a self-defense and coping mechanism, because it's about survival. Sure. Our fight and flight, our freeze and submit responses come at the moment that we feel afraid, at the moment that we feel anxious. And I've been feeling a lot of that over the last several months. And so a lot of the time, to be honest, it's unjustified. I can identify that it's unjustified. It doesn't mean that it's not valid, though, that it isn't rational in terms of where the thoughts come from and how it makes you feel in the moment, both in that direct moment, but also the following week, the following month, or whatever it is, even though that time hasn't arrived yet. So you might not even know how you feel when of the time that you're perceiving you may feel that time to be, right?
Yeah.
So same thing with the actions of people comparing part of our shared history biologically as well is really sick and disgusting. It's extremely uncalled for, and people that are making those comparisons, I am curious to know what would even inspire them to use that, because there's a lot of different, you could argue there's a lot of different similar forms of genocide or annihilation of people or communities. Yes, I'm not taking away from the Holocaust or us being Jewish, but yes, it's one of the most public ones, but there are so many things that are similar enough that are happening even today in our world, in our current, right now, that are not being brought to similar light or similar exposure. And so, not to take away from that, but I do want to highlight the fact that, yeah, they might be choosing the Holocaust, but you know what, there's a lot of other things that are happening too that are just as severe, and to bring awareness to that is important too.
Oh, like North Korea?
That's one. Yep.
And that's we're not going to get into that in this podcast, but that's a very current ongoing Holocaust that's happening right now. But I think that people are so afraid that they feel that this is, and I've heard this word used quite a few times, a slippery slope.
Yeah, it is so.
Yeah, it's a very difficult conversation. Absolutely. But it's just, once again, just awareness, respect. We've completely lost respect of each other's real, actual experiences, either lived or in our past and our DNA and our ancestors. And it's, it's unfortunate.
Yeah,
absolutely. But any positive thing we want to talk about near the end of this rapid fire conversation? We just felt like we had to come out with.
Well, I'm really grateful that through our transitions in our lifestyle and our scheduling and our just constant changing, that we've been able to persevere through this pandemic for just almost a year now. and that we've been able to produce close to 100, if not 100, pieces of content if you include our full-length episodes with our guests, our one-to-one last sip content, and then also all the other Instagram live and kind of mini videos that we've done that you can find on our channel at getting_juicy. I think that's pretty remarkable because in my head I said, in the first year of our history of this podcast, I would love to create 100 pieces of content. That was kind of a goal for me, and I think that's a goal that we've accomplished. And I'm excited as we move into the last of this first year for our podcast, and for the second year, I think the two of us, I can speak for both of us in this, is that we have a lot of gratitude and appreciation for those that have stuck with us, and those that have followed our accounts. I think the fact that we've received 15,000 YouTube video views is quite remarkable. And yes, there are a few videos that have contributed to that huge number, but there's a lot of you that have been on the show who have been so instrumental, no matter if you've received a little bit of viewership or a lot. And so me and Rachel and me are really excited to continue these conversations with people that are making a difference in our community and figuring out different ways to reach different audiences. So if you are still with us and you have different ways of connecting with other people and you want to share those communities with us, I think that would be fantastic for us to continue those conversations. So please let either of us know how we can support your journey, give you a platform to share your story and what you want to amplify in the world. That's what this podcast is about. So
thank you for saying that, actually, because that was something that was on my mind too as we come to the 1 year mark, which I seriously can't believe.
I know. Can you believe that I moved from my bed to my couch? It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, go watch episode 1. Whoa.
It's still one of the better episodes, no offense. Because this is so raw.
It's so raw. And speaking of that, the last thing we'll leave you with here is just to get excited for our next guest episode, because that guest is a very special person to both of us. And his name is Jeff Grace. And Jeff Grace graced us with his presence on our
second.
Well,
our first actual episode.
I was gonna say, hold on. Yeah, our very first guest episode. So technically, yes, our second episode, but our very first guest. And that was a whole year ago, like next week. And he's actually coming on the podcast next week. So, and we'll just say he's calling in from a completely different country, continent. And we'll talk more about that and why when we see Jeff next week, which I'm super excited about. So we'll have a little celebration there. But yeah. And congratulations, Trenton Garvey, Chef Trenton Garvey, for receiving the very first black jacket.
Yes, congratulations, buddy.
Hell's Kitchen, which aired last night. So
yes, it was a wonderful episode.
It's funny because we had him on the show recently, and this season hasn't been leaked as the one before was leaked. So I have no idea how far he went.
Yep.
And I have this feeling that he went far.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. Yeah, that's super, super exciting. So
super exciting.
Yeah, Chef. I was gonna say Chef Jeff. No, Jeff Grace is not a chef. Trenton Garvey, last episode. You can still catch that
yes.
on our YouTube channel. And
yes.
if you want to email us, gettingjuicy@gmail.com. So with what Hiiro just mentioned, if there's any topics or anyone out there that wants to share their story and have a convo with us, not an interview, conversation, just a chill chat.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening to both of us.
Yes. Thank you for putting up with both of us.
Love you all.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.